Hey, I'm Doug, and welcome to Doppler's Gear Garage for the very first video in the Groovy Gadgets series. This time out, we're talking about DI boxes, and two DI boxes that are particularly great for guitar player workflows. First and foremost, we've got the JDI Stereo from Radial, and what that's great for if you're using a modeler live and need a really great DI that's got a feature set that's perfect for that. In the next chapter, we're going to be taking a deeper dive talking about, well, that feature set. Then in the chapter after that, we're going to be talking about the Rupert Neve design RNDI. And that is great for use as a traditional DI. But there's also a switch on the front of this guy that allows you to basically turn it into a DI for your amplifier. So basically you take a feed in between your amplifier and your cabinet. This is not a reactive load box, but then you bring that into your DAW to use with different IR loaders. It is awesome. Now, here's the other thing is in the background there, you can see that I've got the Mojotone Slammins convertible ISO cabinet. That right there is a Marshall Major. That amplifier is 200 watts of screaming loud power. And as much as it's great to be in the room with the amp to be able to adjust it, you don't necessarily want to be next to that volcano. So that's where a box like that becomes so helpful. The other thing is elsewhere in the house, I've actually built what I call an amp closet. So the idea is to be able to keep the amp close to you, be able to take a tap off of that and bring that into your DAW. It's a great workflow. All right, we'll talk more about that after we're done talking about the JDI Stereo. So the Radial JDI Stereo. What exactly does a DI box do anyway? Well, DI stands for direct injections. What exactly does that mean anyway? So basically, you come out of your modeler, ideally in stereo. This box converts the signal, steps it down to a mic level signal, balances that signal out. Again, if you're running in stereo, comes out via a pair of balanced XLR cables to the PA in the front of house. Now, a couple of things about running in mono versus stereo. If you have the ability to run in stereo, especially if you're, for example, playing with a vocalist, one of the things you want to do is let the vocals be in the center of the mix. So by using a stereo signal, you're kind of able to, if you will, cloak that in guitar. It's really great, as long as you don't have anything too extreme happening on the left or the right-hand side. Now, right here, you have a little button that's a ground lift. So here's the deal. Chances are where you plug in on stage and where the front-of-house mixer is plugged in, not plugged in on the same outlet. Sometimes that can create a ground loop. Sometimes sounds like, I'm looking at the mic, by the way. And then you can, well, lift that and the goes away. All right, so the other side here, basically you have got a pair of inputs that's going to be coming from your modeler. You also have a pair of through outputs that you can use to run to, for example, a pair of FR powered cabinets, which is super groovy. On either side here, independent for each one of the inputs, you have a pad that basically drops the level by 15 dB. That's usually used more for active basses or for keyboards, so generally you won't need to use that. All right, this unit is passive, so you don't need to run power to it or like phantom power or any of the things we might normally do with a pedal board. So the feature set about this guy is, first of all, it's got Jensen transformers. It's really clean. The signal is awesome. It is a fabulous, first of all, built like a tank. The other thing that I normally do with this guy, I've got my little piece of tape here. I put my tape here just such that everybody knows that's Doppler's DI, such that when I'm done with the gig, comes home with me instead of with the sound tech. All right, let's talk about the RNDI. So like the JDI Stereo, although this is a mono DI, in the lower position of the switch, this can function like a traditional DI, which means you can use it for bass or acoustic guitar, so on and so forth. But in the upper position, it goes into amp DI mode. You run your guitar either directly into your amp or your pedal board into your amp. Your amplifier speaker out goes into the input. The through jack goes to your speaker cabinet. You've got to use a speaker cabinet with this. This is not a reactive load box. Please keep that in mind. Or you can run into something like the Mojotone Slammins convertible ISO cabinet, which is awesome. I also earlier mentioned that I've got basically an amp closet where I keep different cabinets that I can use one of those. But the idea is you've got to keep a load on your amplifier there, especially with something like that. That's 200 watts. It's louder and has more power than pretty much all the reactive load boxes that are on the market. So I kind of have to use a cabinet with that amp of some sort. In this particular guide, you need to make sure that whatever speakers I'm running in there are capable of handling the amount of output that's got. But there are a bunch of speakers that are good for that. In particular, EV or some of the higher rated Slammins are great for that. All right. Now, once you've got all that goodness coming out of the back side of this guy via the balanced XLR, and there is a ground lift switch here, you bring it into your DAW. And this is where some of the additional magic happens, and this box makes that possible. Celestion has an application called Speaker Mix Pro. Technically, it's a plugin. The good folks at Two Notes have Wall of Sound, and Tonex has the Tonex app. All of those basically have an IR functionality that allows you to take the essence of your amp. You're playing along with the track, fine-tuning the sound of the amp, pulling up a great IR, and then whether it's Speaker Mix Pro, whether it's Wall of Sound, or whether it's Tonex. And in Tonex, you basically turn off everything except for the cabinet block, and then you can choose the right IR and start moving the microphones around virtually. It is an incredibly powerful workflow, and this box makes that possible. All right, for more information about the RNDI, the JDI Stereo, and the Mojotone Slammins Convertible ISO cabinet, follow the links down below in the description. If by chance you haven't already subscribed to the channel, I want to invite you to do so. Don't forget to ring the bell so I can let you know when more videos are going to go online. And last but not least, thanks so much for watching. Cheers.